Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Chocobo Dash. Today, once again, joining me is my co-host,
Elliot.
And once again, I'm always your ever-loving host as well, Nell. And we've got a wonderful collection of topics for you this week. So, let's just do a brief recap on what we've done this week, and then we'll dive right into our wonderful topics. Elliot, what have you been up to?
Well, as I said last week, usually my big goals are to cap out Soldiery, to cap out my challenge log, and I actually did both of those far earlier than I expected to. So I spent the past couple days mostly just harvesting something and selling it at the markets and making a fair amount of money just doing that over and over, watching Netflix and harvesting away. So kind of bland, but it was a lot of gil, so I'm not complaining.
Anything else kind of just popping up there? Like, did you do anything fun or exciting?
No, nothing particularly out of the ordinary. Running a whole bunch of roulettes and expert dungeons to get soldiery tomes. I have finally gotten my second weathered piece, so now it's just a matter of getting the cheaper hands and legs and everything for my tanking set.
Ah, I see. I have a boatload of soldiery. I haven't spent it myself, but I'm currently saving up for that wonderful progression that's locked behind Coil. But regardless, for myself, I've been gathering as well. Probably a little bit more than you, I might say.
I can't help but notice that you do have a new axe on your back there.
Indeed. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, I have a beautiful new solid gold axe. Over the weekend, finally finished my Axe of the Luminary and started work on my Pick of the Luminary. Now, I have to admit, I am slightly disappointed on one aspect for this tool. Whenever you complete the Luminary tools for any of the crafting classes, you get a unique title based on that. You do get 3 titles for doing the gathering, but it's like specific per zone. So I have like Forest Reaver, Desert Reaver, but the crafting classes, when you get a Luminary tool, you get the title of the Golden Hammer, of the Golden Anvil. But you don't get that with the Botanist or the Miner or the Fishing Luminary tool. You don't get that kind of a title. And it was kind of disappointing because I was looking forward to the title of possibly getting of the Golden Axe.
While that would be nice, I would also point out that for some reason we still don't have title displays on our character names anyway. And what is that exactly? Wouldn't that be nice to actually see, Nelson, the Golden Axe, or of the Golden Anvil, or whatever?
Well, it would be nice, but you can see it when you examine the person. But who knows? Maybe that'll be something that comes out down the line. I know that there has been a topic or two brought up about that. But other than that, my Coil party has gotten to just before Twisters on Twintania. I've gotten no farther in Titan. And that's pretty much been my week.
All right, well then, why don't we start off? And I think, actually, Nell, you should go first, because we've recently had some more words from Yoshida about Atmas, and we've had 2.5 come and, well, I wouldn't say go, but it's live now, and we haven't seen any more upgrades to the Zodiac quest line.
Well, there's a reason 2.25 didn't give us any upgrades to the Zodiac quest line. As most of you know, you need to get your Atma stage first and then get your Animus weapon. The Animus weapon people generally aren't complaining about because of the amount of work involved. It's easy to see, it's easy to progress, and easy to understand where you're at in that process. It's just a grind. The Atma grind itself, as we all know, is basically trying to win the lottery 12 times. Go figure. Maybe the system's broken, but Yoshida had to say that I'll read it directly. It'll probably make more sense that way. Yoshida wrote, "I know some of our players have been looking forward to the continuation of the Zodiac quest line that I mentioned in the recent live letter, but the release of the new quest has been postponed. Our reasoning for this decision is, in brief, point number 1. Many players have yet to obtain an Animus weapon. Ya think?"
That seems like one of the biggest no-brain... It's like... Of course, I've tweeted after that was posted. Maybe the reason is because the whole Zodiac weapon quest line is kind of terrible.
The quest line itself is not the terrible part. It's the drop rates on top of that. Like, there has been numerous suggestions to improve this. I really hate one part of their community right now because of this, because a lot of people in the community are pointing fingers at those who have not gotten their drops yet and saying that those people are holding back the game. Those people are holding back continuing the Zodiac questline, and it's mathematically not their fault.
You can spend probably all of your playtime grinding fates, hoping for Atma drops, and getting nothing. And quite frankly, I can't speak for everyone who hasn't gotten them, but that's not how I want to spend my time. That's not how I think a lot of people want to spend their time. And blaming people who have decided, you know what, this is not worth my time and effort to just grind on relentlessly, they're not holding the game back. The designers are holding the game back by putting this huge time sink in and this huge barrier for anyone to do something.
I'm going to be completely honest. A friend of mine, I will say the first name of the player is Kylie, spent 16 hours one day, 16 hours in Southern Fanland trying to get an Atma. Do you want to know what they had to show for it?
Nothing.
They had 1,200 gil and about 8,000 Grand Company seals. That's it. That's all they have to show for that 16 hours of work.
Wow, 8,000 Grand Company seals. That would take you, 5 minutes to get with leaves?
Give or take.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And I honestly, I would think that even if they didn't want to further expand the quest line just yet, I would think it would actually behoove them to say, this is not a good decision. Maybe we should address the fact that the whole Atma thing is beyond messed up, now. Maybe we should make it a guaranteed drop from a fate, or even, I've seen people suggest, why not make it a progress meter so that, complete 5 fates in this area and you will get an Atma, or complete 10 fates in this area. Trust me, with the amount of mythology stones that you have to get and the number of books you have to grind through, it's not going to unbalance the animus rate that much.
There's even someone made a really good suggestion on top of that. Keep the RNG, but add a meter in there that each consecutive fate you do in that zone without zoning adds a 1% drop rate. So if you started off at 0, you would need 101 fates. After 101 fates, you have a guaranteed drop. And if you think about that, that's a total of 1,212 fates. That's a lot of fates. But you know what? That's mathematically more plausible than hoping and crossing your fingers.
Yeah, because otherwise a 3% drop rate is going to be a 3% drop rate, and you can say, well, odds are eventually you're going to get it, but it's the same logic by which you say, well, if I play the lottery every day, eventually I'm going to win. No, you can wind up not winning after playing long enough, just like if you'd never played at all.
Yeah, it sucks. It really sucks, but hey, they're at least doing the second option here that is listed on their note. Number 2 is we would like to incorporate feedback regarding the difficulty of the Zodiac weapon quests. Now, implementing feedback, chances are that means they're going to be listening to what we have to say on the forums. Be it one side of the discussion or the other, chances are they're going to look at everything as a whole. So when people are on there saying, oh, well, if you're on here complaining you could be fake grinding, just remember that, fates are up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Could be lulls in between. Someone could cast a few spells and type a sentence or two. Or some people are really fast typers and could type the entire thing between fates being popped. Some people could even be writing this after already completing their weapon. Just because you've completed it doesn't mean that you approve the system, and you can see that the system is bunk whether you've finished it or not.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot else to say. I think this is incorporating feedback kind of this is a broken system, and I don't think it really should have launched in the way that it did. And I think the faster that it gets patched up, the better. So I'm interested to see how their response, how the development team will be responding to things in 2.28, because if it stays in the current state, it's a real detriment to the game. Let's just put it that way.
Well, let's look at it from a quick perspective. If they add another tier in, they're going to have to make the previous tier even a little bit easier. Even if they take it from 3% and, say, bring it up to 10%. Still, that's mathematically possible for not to get anything, but it's still a 1 in 10 chance of getting it perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm quite miffed about how the whole thing has been handled, so I'm adopting the wait and see with a bit of sneering bitterness on the side.
Well, how about we turn that bitterness upside down and bring up our next subject?
That sounds like a good idea, because the next subject should make a lot of people very happy, because after, years and years of all the Final Fantasy online celebrations pretty much being located in Japan, on account of the games being developed in Japan, so that makes a certain amount of sense, we were told that in October, the Fan Fest for Final Fantasy XIV will be taking place in Las Vegas. There will also be a celebration in Tokyo, and there will also be a celebration in London, but it means that people who are here in North America will also get a chance to celebrate some new information and gather up with other...
Oh, it seems like you cut out there for a moment. Do you want to try repeating that?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm not sure why I cut out there, but I was just saying that for the first time since the Final Fantasy online games have been running for several years, and usually the fan gatherings have been in Japan on account of them being Japanese games. So for the first time in quite some time, we're going to be having a fan gathering here in October. It's going to be in Las Vegas. There will also be a gathering in London, and there will be a gathering in Tokyo as well. But for fans here in North America, it'll be a chance to get together with other fans of the game, celebrate the game, possibly find out some new information, and just generally have a good time.
I know I personally am going to be trying my best to get there. I don't have any guarantees whether or not I will, but if I can't make it to this one, chances are I'll be there to the next one. And if you're going to be there, we could probably meet up.
I'm certainly hoping so. I haven't talked yet about that, but may very well be going in multiple capacities, so I would love to get there. And I'm personally very happy that it's here, because one of the things, as a person who's played Final Fantasy XI for some time and who played 14 for quite some time, there's always the, I don't want to say issue, but there's always the question of, how much does Square really invest in its North American fan base? Because sometimes it can feel a little bit like, okay, their first focus is the Japanese player base. One of the things Yoshida has said from the beginning is, this is a global game, and we're really interested in hearing from our players all across the globe and incorporating things from everyone. So it's really nice to see that, there's going to be a gathering, and there's going to be a coming together, and fans are going to have a place to come together and say, hey, we're Final Fantasy XIV players. We're here in North America. We love this game.
I know, I'm personally looking forward to it, because, whenever they have the Fan Fest, they would always release a lot of really cool news, like new classes.
Yes, new classes. And that seemed like as good a point as any to bring up the recent event that took place in Japan, which, what took place there now?
I believe it was called the Nico Nico Fan Festival, or Nico Nico Festival of some kind.
That sounds about right.
Nico Nico event, that's it.
And if memory serves, and, if I have been thinking about this for the past every single day since it was first announced, among the many interesting things that were announced, Yoshida mentioned that we will be seeing a gun class and a dagger class sometime after 2.3.
Now, he also went on to say that the gun class is not what we're expecting.
And here is where Nell and I disagree. Nell has her theories about what it's going to be. So Nell, go ahead. You go first, and then I will respond to that. We were talking about this a little bit before the show.
Well, if it's not going to be what we typically believe it to be, that means probably Corsair is out the window. So, anyone expecting Ranger or Corsair, chances are you're not going to be happy here. I hate to break your bubble, but, if it's not going to be what we're expecting, it's not going to be that. However, one such thought that I had was, what if it was Gun Mage? It would be a ranged support, kind of like Bard, but it would use the combination of guns and magic.
Now, see, I disagree with this because my thought on the matter is that one of the things that 14 has done since the beginning is put up its ranged classes as not being as good as its melee classes in direct one-for-one DPS. As a ranged class, say a Bard or a Summoner or a Black Mage, you have the advantage of having less chance to stand in something that will kill you. So as a trade-off, you do a little bit less single target damage. You're oriented a little bit more toward support. If you're playing a Summoner, you're oriented to damage over time. If you're playing a Black Mage, you're oriented toward AoE damage. If you're playing a Bard, you're oriented a little more toward party support. So if the class was, for instance, Gun Mage, and it was more of a support-oriented ranged class, I would argue that that's actually exactly what you would expect to see. Personally, I don't know if I would go so far as to say I expect this, but I have a, let's say, hankering for the idea that what we're going to see is Musketeer to Engineer, and that the end class is going to be a tank rather than a DPS class.
Now, how do you think a ranged tank would work?
Well, there are models for it in other games. Star Wars The Old Republic has a ranged tank. WildStar, which is coming out in June, has a ranged tank. I think what we would probably see is it would use a lot of the same gear that you already see for Bards, and it would work sort of like Ninja or Fantasy XI, where to absorb attacks rather than taking all of them directly to the face. That having been said, it's also just as possible that we're going to get something more along the lines of Chemist or Salve Maker, or however you want to call it, which is also a class that has frequently been given guns and could very convincingly be made into a healer. Or we might get just, even though it's not what we expect, we might get the ranged support class like Gun Mage.
If it's a healer, I can hear all the fanboys crying right now.
And those tears will taste like candy.
Sweet, sweet candy. Speaking of candy, have you heard about Frontlines?
We did hear about Frontlines. Now, while we don't have a whole lot of hard information about the Frontline system at this point, we do know, we've heard rumors, not necessarily confirmed, that it's going to be an 8 versus 8 versus 8 sort of battlefield. I don't know about you. I'm excited about this.
It sounds like it's going to be pretty fun. I'll give it a try for a few times and see if it catches my interest. I'm not huge on the PvP, but, I'd be willing to give everything a shot at least once.
I'm actually very fond of PvP, but I'm not very fond of arena PvP. I'm much more a fan of a structured sort of engagement. This sounds like sort of a cross between, say, large-scale open PvP areas like what you see in, say, the Elder Scrolls Online or in Warhammer Online, with more traditional instance battlegrounds, i.e. what you'd see in World of Warcraft, the Old Republic, countless numbers of different games that have instance PvP, where, the focus is not just on dueling with people, the focus is on making a push and making sure that if you drop, it matters, that you're working together toward a common goal, and it's enhanced by the fact that this is a three-way conflict. This is not going to be just one side versus the other side. I'm very interested to see if this is going to be split along Grand Company lines, if it's going to be split along Nation of Origin lines, or if it's going to be split across factions that we do not know yet.
That does seem kind of interesting. I seem to be getting a bit of an echo here. Okay, there. That sounds a little better.
The reason I mentioned that it might be split along faction lines that we haven't seen in the game yet is I don't know how many people listening and watching remember in 1.0 there were 3 factions that would be referenced every so often that had specific factional leaves. Those haven't been seen in 2.0, but they could be resurrected for frontlines.
Oh, that does sound like it would be kind of interesting. I seem to recall there was ones that were for like just the Disciples of Hand and Land. I can't remember what they were called, but what they did was you had 3 different options, and depending on what leaves you took, you got credits for those. And then you could turn them in for specific types of leaves that were available only per faction.
Yes, they were available. The credits were available also for Disciples of War and for Magic, and you would eventually. They actually have basically a little storyline along those leaves if you turned in enough factional credits and picked up enough faction leaves, and they usually provided unique benefits and gear. So that's a possibility.
That's true. One thing I am hoping for eventually for PvP wise is one-on-one duels. Because I would like to, be able to queue up against specific people for RP or just general horsing around with some of my friends, and not have to worry about creating 2 pre-constructed teams and hoping we get a match against each other.
I will say also for the future of PvP is that we need more than the one arena map. The Wolf's Den is a pretty well-constructed arena, but I think part of the reason why a lot of people have not been as interested in PvP is that, when that's the only thing you have to look at, it can quickly get kind of boring.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It would be the same as if you're leveling in the same area all the time.
And we all know that nobody really wants to see the inside of Sastasha again after doing enough low-level duty roulettes.
True enough. But let's move on to our last subject for today, why don't we?
Okay, that sounds like a good idea. Why don't you go ahead?
Well, I'm going to start off with, as you can see, our lovely house here. Unfortunately, it does not have enough space, nor does any other house in the game. But personal housing is said to be coming out very soon, possibly 2.3 or shortly thereafter. And you can not only get personal housing and have it outside for yourself, but if you're a part of a free company that owns a property, you can actually have a slightly larger place, but have it connected inside of your free company house. So there would be like a door or a lobby connection somewhere inside of your free company house that would go to all the personal housings.
Now, one of the things that they've mentioned basically is that I wouldn't say mentioned so much as hinted at, is that it's possible we're going to be seeing the personal rooms leading off of the free company houses and personal houses implemented shortly thereafter. We also don't know yet if it's going to be an either-or proposition, or if, for instance, I would be able to have both a room off of my free company's house and a personal house somewhere else entirely. I'm going to be honest and say I'm a little leery about the idea of having rooms implemented before personal housing and personal houses, simply because guilds, which is what free companies are, can be such ephemeral things that tying your housing, tying something you've invested that much creativity into, to the continued life of a guild, can sometimes be a really awkward proposition.
It might be a 2-stage process as well. You could buy it and have it connected to the free company and eventually upgrade it to its own place, like its own house.
That's also a possibility. We know that they should be large. Even the personal rooms should be larger than an in-room, and you will be able to invite people in to your personal space. I know, for one, I'm very much looking forward to having the option of a personal room and having the option of a personal house and being able to set that up in a way distinct from a company house, since company houses really kind of have to be designed by committee rather than a personal house which can be set up however you like it.
Unfortunately, we don't really have too much more information on the personal housings, so that's something we'll have to look forward to hearing from again soon. I think we're going to be getting a huge info dump at E3. I think that's on June 10th, is it?
That is June 10th, and that is also when we have been promised more information about, for instance, the dagger-wielding class, the gun class, 2.3, and basically where we're going with the game from here. So that's it's going to be an interesting week for everyone in June.
I'm going to make one possible guess as to what we're going to be hearing from E3, if you're willing to listen. I'm going to assume that we are going to be shown the first trailer for the new expansion.
I would agree with that. However, I'm going to go out on a little bit more of a prediction limb, and we'll be able to find out if I'm right or wrong in a couple months. I'm going to say that we are going to see the first trailer for the new expansion, and the first trailer will include new classes and jobs, but those new classes and jobs will not be the dagger and gun jobs that or classes that we are currently being teased about.
Ooh, that is a solid prediction. Did you want to speculate on what the classes will be?
I'm going to speculate, and my speculation, what the heck? I'm going to go in for a penny, in for a pound. I'm going to say that the first expansion will be centered around Huerthas, that we are going to be able to go into Ishgard at long last, because that's been something obvious that's been hanging over the game since 1.0 launched. I think that we're going to see 3 new classes, including a greatsword-wielding class that moves into Dark Knight, and a new kind of tanking class and a new kind of healing class. I think that we're probably also going to see a new Disciple of the Land and Disciple of the Hand.
Oh, great. And that's just what I need.
What we all need. And I'll even go for broke and say that we're also going to see the option to, let's say, assemble free company or personal airships along with it. Let's just go for broke. We'll see how wrong I am once June rolls around.
Alrighty then. Well, did you have anything else you want to close the show out with? Why not plug your personal blog?
I would like to plug my personal blog. For those of you who don't know, in addition to working on Massively, I'm working on my own personal site. That's Elliot-Lefebvre.com, which is probably, I think that's going to be under the video here. So if you don't know how to spell my name, that's might be the best place to find it because it's a little complicated.
Don't worry, it will be in the description.
But and I am running a Patreon campaign right now, so that's a site. I am doing a lot of Final Fantasy related writing there too, although not about Final Fantasy XIV.
Well then, if you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to propose some topics for us to discuss on the show, please feel free to leave a comment below, or you can post in the official Lodestone topic. You can follow either of us on Twitter. I'm Nell_Celestine.
And I'm Elliot_Lefebvre.
Both of which are in the description below. And if you have anything else you want to add, or if you'd like to be a guest to bring up a topic specific to an experience that you might have had, you can also comment to one of us there as well. As always, this is Nell Celestine.
And this is Elliot Lefebvre.
And we're bidding you adieu.